Hello, everyone. To start today's episode, I want to wish all of you happiness. True, genuine happiness. And that, in fact, has been the theme you've probably noticed in many of the recent episodes. Because in this case, the wish itself is also the message. And let me say this, I really love this kind of theme. Because usually our wishes, I've noticed, tend to be too quick, too fleeting. For example, during holidays or New Year's celebrations, I once had this thought. I imagined people spending the whole day just talking together about their wishes for one another. Have you ever had that kind of feeling? Or have you ever realized how wonderful it would be if something like that actually happened? Let me give you an example. We often say, I wish you good health. But imagine if, after saying that, we actually spent the whole day talking about health, about how we care for one another's health, sharing what we've learned, giving each other gifts related to health. Right? And maybe we'd even share healthy food together. Some fruits, tomatoes, carrots, greens, that kind of thing. Maybe we'd remind each other to visit one another's gardens if we have them. I think that would be such a beautiful thing, when the very thing we just wished for becomes the theme of the space and the moment we're in. That's when a wish really means something, right? But it seems we don't really do that, do we? We say our wishes, and almost immediately forget them. And sometimes our wishes just become habits. It's like when people greet you by saying, "Hey, how are you?" But honestly, sometimes that "how are you" is just another way of saying hello. They don't always mean it. Now, I'm not saying everyone is like that. Absolutely not. I would never generalize like that. I'm only talking about what I've personally observed. And I'm sure you've noticed it too. And there are so many times when we ask someone, "How are you?" Or someone asks us, and we both know the question isn't really about caring. It's just a greeting, right? Let me tell you about one moment when I really felt this. I wasn't directly involved, just observing from nearby. I was sitting next to two friends who hadn't seen each other for a while. You know, one of those catch-up over coffee kind of meetups. So one of them walks in and asks the other, "How are you?" But here's the thing. The friend being asked was visibly sick, holding a tissue, looking pale. Everyone could tell they had the flu. And I thought to myself, come on, it's obvious they're sick. Why ask, "How are you?" Wouldn't it make more sense to say, "Hey, you look really pale. Are you okay? What's going on?" That kind of question feels more real, more emotionally connected. But saying, "How are you?" to someone who's clearly unwell, it just feels a little off, doesn't it? Now, I'm not criticizing anyone, no, not at all. Because sometimes things just happen suddenly. We don't think in the moment and we fall back into old habits. That automatic, "Hey, how are you?" that comes out by default. The intention isn't bad, not at all. But imagine if our words, our wishes, could actually fit the space and the moment we're in. Wouldn't that make things so much more meaningful? So, please remember this for me. When I compare two things, it doesn't mean I'm saying one is good and the other is bad. I want to make that clear, because it's so easy for people to misunderstand comparisons that way. What I really mean is that both can be positive, just that one of them might be 1,000 times better than the other. That's the perspective I hope you'll keep in mind. Not everything has to be labeled good or bad. All right, now let's come back to today's main topic. Since I wished you happiness, let's talk about true happiness. And I should mention, the title of today's episode might sound a bit harsh at first. It might even sting a little for some people. So let me explain right away. In the title, there's a little asterisk at the end. You know how in books, an asterisk usually means there's something more to be explained. So the title reads, "I know not everyone deserves to be happy." And I want you to understand that yes, that's true, but there's an asterisk next to it. Because clearly my job here is to help you understand my statement more deeply. And I truly hope you'll be able to see it from my perspective. At the core, everything I say is meant to be constructive. Something that stirs emotion, that opens people's hearts. Because I never want to hurt anyone. Even though what I'm about to talk about comes from what I genuinely believe is the truth, I still hope you can feel that behind it, there's an asterisk. That little symbol that says, wait, there's more to this. So let me say it clearly and directly so you can really understand where I'm coming from. Not everyone deserves to be happy. Now, why do I say that? Of course, there are stories of destiny, of luck, things we simply cannot deny. Because personally, I've met people who were born into violent environments, who grew up surrounded by pain and trauma. Obviously, they weren't as lucky as those who were raised in peaceful, loving families. That's undeniable. And of course, when it comes to social science, there's rarely such a thing as an absolute truth. It's not like physics, there's always an exception. So what we'll talk about today is the common case, not the rare one. That is, regardless of what kind of situation we were born into, whether fortunate or less fortunate. In most cases, happiness follows the law of cause and effect. It's not destiny. It's the result of something. That means to achieve happiness, no matter how you define it, there's always a price to pay. Now, don't take the word price negatively, because even good things have a price. Think of it like this. When you make a meal, you invest your time and your money. That's a price too. So, your time, your effort, your energy. That's what I mean by price. And the truth is, there's always a certain symmetry in life. The bigger your dream, the higher the price you must pay. There's no such thing as a big dream with a cheap price. Never. And by price, I don't just mean money. For example, people who practice meditation, they might not spend much financially, but they sacrifice hours, days, even years of focus and discipline. That's not a small price either. So, here's an interesting and somewhat profound way to look at it. The higher you aim, the more you must pay, at least in the beginning. And the smaller your goals, the smaller the price. That's how it usually is. Not an absolute truth, but a general rule of life. Now let me ask you, is happiness a big dream? Of course it is. Is health? Being truly healthy a big dream? Absolutely. Is joy, love, fulfillment, a sense of wholeness? Are those big things? Of course. Is a successful, meaningful career a big goal? Yes, it is. Then there's no way such great goals could be achieved through shallow, effortless living. Drinking juice, watching clouds and stars. Sure, that's lovely, but let's be real. It's rare that such things alone bring lasting happiness. So, here's my bold conclusion. Dreams make us feel good. They inspire us. But reality is discipline. Reality is consistent action. Reality is finishing what needs to be done. And when you see things that way, you can recognize the contrast very clearly. Dreams are dazzling, exciting, beautiful. Just thinking about them feels amazing. But to achieve those dreams, you have to deal with the ordinary, the practical, the laborious parts of life. There's no other way. And we must accept that law. That's why I said, not everyone deserves to be happy. But, and here's the asterisk, what that really means is, you have to earn happiness through effort. It's the law of cause and effect. So yes, this message is both bad news and good news. The bad news is that if you keep living passively, lazily, repeating the same patterns every day, then honestly, it's going to be very, very hard to change. And I'm using the word hard gently here, because the truth is, it's almost impossible. Why? Because we keep living the same way, letting each day drift by just like the last. Isn't that true? We're afraid of change. We're afraid of being creative. And that's exactly why the results you have right now are your results. That's the outcome of your current habits, your current mindset. And honestly, I think that might be as far as it goes. You're just repeating the same pattern over and over again, maintaining the same state you're in. Because if we want a breakthrough, if we want something different, but all our current habits stay the same, how could we ever get a new result? That's why we need effort, creativity, change, and new attempts, right? So if you want to be happier, and by happier, I mean reaching a state that's different from where you are right now, something you dream of becoming, then your life needs new discipline. You need new daily habits. And if you practice them long enough, consistently enough, just like the law of quantity and quality, Once you reach enough quantity, the quality will change. And eventually, you'll reach that new state of happiness. It's really that simple. So in the end, everything circles back to the same old truth. And honestly, this is not hard to see in real life. Just look at the people who are good at studying, for example. We often say that person's smart. They're just naturally gifted. But I think people who say that have no idea how much hard work goes into learning. Maybe they've never gone through it, or maybe they've accepted their own limits. They see themselves as not smart enough, and to face that kind of hard work feels too heavy for them. So they end up believing that things must be easier for the smart ones. But I think that's the wrong way to see it. Because whether someone's talented or not, everyone has to put in the work. Right? And if we're talking about the weight someone has to carry, I honestly believe that people at a higher level often bear heavier, harder burdens than those who are average. But because psychological pressure and stress are invisible, we tend to assume that smart or successful people are simply luckier than us. We don't realize the kind of weight they're carrying. We don't accept that their pressure might be 100 times greater than ours. It's hard to see, so we often don't believe it. Sometimes it helps to compare it with something more tangible, like weightlifting. Even those who are gifted at lifting still have to face heavier and heavier weights. Being talented doesn't mean you get to lift lighter bars. On the contrary, because you are talented, the challenge you face is much heavier, much tougher. And when we look at that, like those massive weights, that visible struggle, we feel admiration. We see the sweat, the effort, the tears. Right? At that moment, we can still acknowledge talent or luck, but we also feel genuine respect. We don't mock them or say, "Oh, they're just lucky." Because when you see the actual weight they lift, you know it's not luck. You can almost feel the pain in your own body. You understand it because you've struggled before too. And since we're already on this topic, which actually connects a bit to sports and culture, both things I love, let's take Messi as an example. People often call him a genius, right? And when I talk with some of my friends, there's always this attitude like, well, Messi's just lucky. Sure, he was born with some natural gifts. I can respect that perspective. But personally, I've followed Messi since he was young, from the time he was a substitute player to when he became a legend. And I can honestly say I've watched almost every great match he's ever played. I'm the kind of fan who admires skill and excellence, not someone who follows fame or popularity. Truly. And I've noticed one consistent thing. Whenever Messi has the ball, the opposing team usually assigns 2 or even 3 defenders to stop him. That alone already makes his job much harder than that of a normal star player. The second thing is this. Throughout most of Messi's career, he had to face 2 extremely experienced, talented, and tough defenders, Sergio Ramos and Pepe. And if you've ever watched those El Clasico matches, the ones between the 2 biggest football clubs in Spain, you'll often see situations where those 2 just went straight in, crashed into him, kicked him hard. There were so many games that even got bloody. And many times you'd see Messi fall down and just couldn't get back up right away. So clearly you can see how enormous that pressure is. I think that a genius, if we're going to call him that, usually receives a kind of special treatment. And the pressure they carry is incredibly heavy. It's not simple at all. Coming back to my earlier point, yes, some people are born with certain natural gifts. But not everyone deserves success. And not everyone deserves happiness, my friends. At the end of the day, they still have to train, they still have to shoot, they still have to work. Just like everybody else. Because for a star player who plays the full 90 minutes, sometimes even goes into extra time, and the coach almost never substitutes him, there's no way his physical condition could be normal, right? You have to understand, sprinting at the 90th minute? That's no joke. It's not easy at all. Especially when you're up against defenders. Most of them are huge, tall, strong, physically dominant players. That's serious stuff, not something to take lightly. So, I've been using these familiar stories to make one point clear. Not everyone deserves success. Not everyone deserves happiness. In the end, it all comes back to our everyday lives. Every minute, every second, how disciplined we are, how much effort we put in, and how hard we actually work. There's a very interesting contrast I want to mention. It's about a player named Mario Balotelli, an Italian footballer. I actually really like this guy. I've even watched his training sessions, seriously. And I have to say, his talent is insane. Like, if I exaggerate a bit, and I kind of have to, it's almost unbelievably good. This guy is so talented. If you don't believe me, just go search on YouTube. I'm not sure if the clips are still there, but hopefully they are. Type in Balotelli training. You'll see how incredibly hard it is for others to take the ball from him. And his shots, man, they are powerful. Goalkeepers can barely catch them. So yes, his talent is enormous. I honestly rate Mario Balotelli's raw ability very high. No joke. But here's the problem. He had serious issues with his training attitude. I mean, really bad. There were times when the coach gave instructions and he just refused. If he felt like doing it, he did it. If not, he didn't. That was his attitude. He didn't take care of his body either. Didn't manage his health properly. And because of that, what happened was a player who could have become truly world-class ended up being just an average one. And now, at around 35 years old, give or take, I don't remember exactly, his career is basically coming to a close. And that's a shame. But when you look at it from the perspective of talent and potential, you can clearly see something. Success or failure always has a lot to do with how someone trains every day, how they push themselves, and how they live in their everyday reality. You can actually tell a lot about a person's growth just by observing how they live day to day. And sports is probably the easiest area to see this truth. Because honestly, a football player's career only lasts around 10 to 15 years on average. That's short. Much shorter than in most other professions. So looking at a career that brief actually helps us see these things more clearly. And I want to apologize a little bit. If some of you don't like soccer, maybe this part sounded a bit confusing or boring. So please forgive me for that. But still, I truly hope you can follow along, understand what I'm trying to say, and see the point through this sport that's so well known and beloved around the world. So going back to our topic, our dreams. It sounds beautiful, right? It sounds exciting. But to actually achieve those dreams, we still have to come back to reality. Every single day, not everyone deserves happiness. You have to work, and you need to get done the things that need to get done every single day. Now, whatever your goal is, it always has to come with the things you need to do every day. And you just have to do it, whether it's sunny or rainy today, whether you're happy or sad today, whether you feel motivated or completely unmotivated, you still have to do it. That is discipline. Because when you're happy, when you feel good, and you do the work, that's too easy, too normal. Both successful people and unsuccessful people can do good work when they're happy. So, where's the difference? We all have happy days, but on the days we feel down, on the days we don't want to do anything, those days actually have meaning in life. They're not meaningless. So maybe this is the rule of life. How do you respond on the days when you don't feel like it? Do you still exercise? Do you still read? Do you still learn something new? Do you still take care of yourself? Do you still care about others? Do you still do the things that you believe are meaningful? That might be the difference. So now I hope you take a moment to reflect a little on happiness. The area where you think you want to be happy, take a look at how much effort you've really put into it. How much time? How many hours? How many minutes? How many seconds every day? And the results will come. Some people have told me they crave romantic happiness, but their love life is full of obstacles. That's what they say. Now I really understand. When we blame Cupid, when we blame the god of love, the truth is, I ask you honestly now, if we're being completely honest, how much time do we actually spend on love? I mean, learning about love, understanding love, studying it. How much? Many people don't spend even a single second. We just react to situations in our relationships. We don't actually study it. And even more, some people don't even believe they can learn about love anymore. It's kind of strange, isn't it? Let me give you an example. Now, if you are a salesperson, you have to learn how to talk to customers in order to sell, right? There are rules and principles of communication that make you effective at selling. That's psychology. But now, if you are a salesperson and you just wing it, and do things your own way, I'll just say, good luck. Chances are you won't sell. Maybe if you're some kind of prodigy, you'll succeed, but even then it's difficult, you know? You have to learn the processes, the proper ways to act. How do you deal with this kind of customer? How do you deal with that kind of customer? That is knowledge. And if you want to call it wisdom, that's fine too, because it brings your relationship with the customer closer to the best possible outcome. That's what we call successful selling, which means you have studied how to sell. So I think there's no reason not to apply the same principle of knowledge in other areas of life. If there is a way to improve your relationship right now, why wouldn't you learn it? Some of the things we say we don't think are wrong, but when we learn, we realize we shouldn't have said them. That's what learning gives us. So happiness, even romantic happiness, is something we need to treat as an important subject every day. We have to study it in order to get better at it. It's up to you. Of course, we breathe air, which means we are still dependent on the universe, right? If it's a little cold, we might get sick. Clearly, we are dependent on the universe. We cannot escape the world. Nature or something you can name. Obviously, we are affected by external factors, but still, I want you to hold on just a little. To keep at least a part of your fate in your own hands. I'm not exactly sure what percentage, but I'm certain it's not a small amount. So anyway, we can only really manage the things that are within our control. So let's focus on that so we can achieve some level of happiness that we actually want. Because deep down, we really do want that. So I hope you truly understand, on a deep level, the meaning of this phrase, not everyone deserves happiness. And understand that dreams may sound exciting, but to actually achieve those dreams, it's still a matter of daily work. We have to do something about it. No matter if it's sunny or rainy, no matter if it's hot or cold, no matter what your mood is, you have to do it. And then one day, after you've put in enough effort, it will inevitably lead to change. And I wish you all reach those states of happiness that you're aiming for. And with that, thank you so much for listening with me. Goodbye, and I'll see you next week.